Hey girlfriend, this is Jan James. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast, where women who have endured breast cancer learn to have fulfillment over frustration, clarity over confusion, and faith over fear. We tackle the issues that many of our sisters face after a breast cancer diagnosis, from brain fog to fear of recurrence, from menopause to sex after breast cancer. This is the place to learn how to have hope after breast cancer. So strap yourself in. Welcome to the Hope After Breast Cancer podcast. Hi everyone, it's Jan James from Hope After Breast Cancer. Oh my gosh, many of you know that I have been waiting for a pelvic floor therapist to appear, and here she is. This is Kathy Cates. Hi, Kath. So this is really our introductory video to just let you get to know her. She's going to be educating us about the importance of pelvic floor health, which, you know, most people, it's just not even on their radar, we know, but I know we've talked a lot about it in our groups, and Kathy is an educator. She's a nurse practitioner, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background and why she got into that business. Why the heck did you get into that business, Kathy?
So thank you so much, Jan, for having me. So I'm 8 years out from my triple negative diagnosis, which was the benchmark, as all of you either diagnosed with triple negative right now or past that. And I've been a nurse practitioner for almost 11 years. And so at the time of my diagnosis, I was running a women's health program and doing tons of GYN procedures. So I was basically like pelvic exams all day long. I'm trained as a family nurse practitioner. And after I finished my treatment, during my treatment, I had chemo before a bilateral mastectomy, chemo after I had implants, and then I waited about 6 months, and then I had my ovaries taken out because I tested positive for the gene. And so during treatment, sex was like super painful, and I just was like, well, you know, and I had no desire to have sex, but I love my partner and felt like I wanted to try. So I think it was my social worker was like, just try some Vaseline. I was like, okay, you know, and I'm a nurse, I'm a medical professional. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll try that. Like, that's like probably the worst thing you can do. And so, anyway, it continued to be painful. And then after this whole time, and then after I had my ovaries taken out, I was in menopause. And then I had like maybe my estrogen had come back after, you know, being sort of like in a surgically induced menopause with chemo, but then I was done. Like there was no more estrogen for me.
And
So then
how old were you then?
41.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So again, I really want to drive home the point that I was a nurse practitioner running a women's health program. And I was like, I do not have any tools to help myself. Like it hurts like hell to have sex. I don't want to, you know, it's this vicious cycle. It's like, I don't really want to have sex anyway. And then it hurts like hell. So then why in the hell do I want to have sex? So it was really not good. And luckily I went to my own nurse practitioner at the gyn-onc office, and she did an exam and she said, you need pelvic floor therapy. I said, what's pelvic floor therapy? Anyway, I'm embarrassed to say that. I really am. Like, that's shocking that I didn't know what it was as a nurse practitioner running a women's health program for 4 years. And so I went to pelvic floor therapy, and it totally changed my life and was so helpful. And I said, the people I went to were physical therapists. And I said, how did you learn how to do this? Because for up until January, so for 10 years, I practiced at a federally qualified health center, and my patients didn't have access to the same things that I had access to. And so I said to my own therapist, I said, how'd you learn how to do this? And they said, well, you can learn because you're a nurse practitioner and you're licensed to work internally. I said, cool. So long story, I wrote a grant called Bringing Awareness of the Pelvic Floor into Primary Care. And my federally qualified health center was under the umbrella of I live in Boston, under the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, and they had these grants. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And then I got the grant. So I got the grant allowed me to get the training that a physical therapist would get. And I started a pelvic floor therapy program at my health center. And then sort of the word, I don't know, like the word got out. There aren't a lot of people that do this. And then I started my own pelvic floor therapy practice on the side. And now I work with a wonderful physical therapist here in Boston. And I now work very part-time doing pelvic floor therapy still at my federally qualified health center because those patients still do not have access.
Your story is so important for us to hear because I must have heard hundreds of times from women, why didn't they warn us about this? And they would be our PCPs, our oncs, all of the people that treated us during our cancer. And no one has said anything about painful sex, lack of libido, all of these things, right? And then you, as a trained working nurse practitioner in women's health, didn't know about pelvic floor therapy. So I think we need to give everybody a break. It's not a very well-known but really critical part of the medical community that you're going to help us learn about, right?
Absolutely.
No, that's great. So how will people talk about, or could you just kind of list off some of the things that we've talked about? We're going to do individual videos on a bunch of different topics. What kind of things will they learn?
I think people, certainly, I did not understand that, when you're going through treatment, yes, the focus is on let's get rid of the cancer, 100%. And you don't think about the effect on the rest of your body and on the musculoskeletal system and on the connective tissue or the fascia, right? You don't think about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so there's that level. And then I think we don't think about nobody thinks about the muscles and the connective tissue inside of the pelvic floor,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just gets completely ignored. But I mean, think about it, like you may have, I don't know, like you might have a rash, right, from the chemo, like you might have a reaction on your skin. You might have, joint pain, muscle pain, like from whatever treatment you're on. Well, it's not just the external body, it can affect the pelvic floor muscles as well. And not to mention, a lot of these treatments are very drying. And so they can so they're very drying, really harsh. And not only is there that, they can also put us into maybe temporary menopause, or maybe then for some of us, you're in menopause like I am when you finish treatment. And so, or maybe you need to be in menopause for a while, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if, we have to shut everything down, like if you need to be on an aromatase inhibitor or tamoxifen or whatever, right? So then you are in like a sort of temporary menopause. And so so the tissue is very, very dry. And so really on a most basic level, muscles need to be well hydrated. Muscles and connective tissue need to be well hydrated to perform at their best. So if we're talking about pain with sex, you need to have healthy, well hydrated muscles for sex not to hurt. That's it.
Eureka. Who knew?
That's it. That's all it is, really. That is all it is. It's not. And then if you also, of course, we all have low libido, like, of course. And then if you have dry muscles, not well hydrated muscles, they're dry and dry. Think about like when you don't put moisturizing cream on your face. Now I know you're in Arizona, but I'm in Boston. And when you don't do that in the winter, your face hurts. It's the same thing internally, right? So then that's the environment that you have. And then you're trying to put something inside, it's gonna hurt. So then that's not going to do anything to help your libido.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect storm.
Right. So we're going to do topics like vaginal moisturizing, dilator use. What other kinds of things were you talking about?
Lubricants. the connection of your diaphragm, which is your muscle for breathing, the connection of that to your pelvic floor, because
That's crazy talk. You're going nuts. Did you just make that up? That's amazing. I hadn't even thought about that.
yeah, it's huge. Yeah,
Wow.
like the cornerstone of for all of us. So not only if you can figure out how to engage the true muscle of breathing, which is really lower down, not your from up here, and it not only helps your pelvic floor, but it also helps with down regulation of your nervous system, which, once you get that cancer diagnosis, your whole system is upregulated.
Right. Oh my gosh. What a blessing to know you, honestly, Kathy. I just can't even imagine. So ladies, so look at that. Look at what we got now. Now, Kathy's going to be a great part of our community and just it really has a desire to help us be educated about pelvic floor health. And we are going to do a boatload of videos, just little short videos to kind of educate you and help you understand. Kathy is available for virtual consults. We'll be putting all that information on the website and that kind of thing. But then also she's going to help give me some resources where you can find good pelvic floor therapists in your area too, which is great. So I'm really grateful for you being here, Miss Kathy. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to knock out some more videos, ladies, and open your minds and open your hearts to healing in this area, right? I know many of us have really had a tremendous amount of trouble with sex after cancer, and I think this could be part of the solution that we've been looking for. So thank you so much, and we're really grateful to have you again, Kathy, and see you again.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. Okay, we'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Okay, there's my 5 seconds. We're going to actually just keep rolling because Greg can just cut, where we're at and everything. So I'll go back through it and tell him, where's the meat and that kind of thing. So that's good. Okay, so the first one was the intro and pelvic floor therapy. Okay, good. And then the second one, you just said vaginal moisturizing. You want to do that one?
Yeah, totally.
Good. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. You all set?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go again. 5. Hi, everyone. Jan James again with Hope After Breast Cancer. So glad to be able to introduce you again to Kathy Cates. And she is our pelvic floor therapist expert for Hope After Breast Cancer. And we're so grateful to have her here today from Boston. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Jan. Great to be here.
Thanks. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, today we're going to talk about vaginal moisturizing. Now, I don't know, a lot of us talk about lubes, but moisturizing is a different deal. So what's the difference in those, Kathy?
Great question. So lubricant is for when you want to reduce the friction, and moisturizing is for just like general hydration of the tissue. So think about, you moisturize your face, right? And you need to moisturize your vulva and your vagina. You do. Nobody talks about it. You may not be walking around saying, "Oh, I feel so dry," or you might. You might, but I'm telling you, you need to moisturize.
Crazy. It's just, yeah, because nobody says that is right. So can you go through that a little bit with us?
Totally. And I will say, you need to moisturize thoughtfully. You need to moisturize with no chemicals of concern, because there should be nothing warming, cooling, no. You need only like the purest kind of ingredients that you could find. So I'll give you a perfect example. Like my colleague and I have done a lot of research on this, and it's challenging because it's not regulated by the FDA. That we could have a whole nother discussion about why it's not, but that's for another time. So, and our philosophy is like, there's so much garbage out there that our job is to find you things at different price points that will work. So for moisturizing, so my mom also had breast cancer, premenopausal. She's now 84, which is totally amazing. And she, after her treatment, like many years after, had some pelvic floor issues. So not really related to the cancer, but my mother is also very cost conscious. So she had some vaginal atrophy, and she taught me pure vitamin E oil from CVS. My mother has used it like if you're, this is if you're comfortable putting a finger inside of your vagina. So pure vitamin E oil, nothing else in it. And when my mother went to the gynecologist very recently because she was having some tightness in the pelvic floor, and I wanted to make sure there wasn't something else going on, and it was during COVID and I couldn't go to see her. They said, "Oh my God, wow, you're 84. You have the best looking vagina like we've seen in like in any almost any postmenopausal woman." So way to go for my mom. So vitamin E, and I'm yeah. And so then also my mother also, because she didn't want to spend the money, was doing some dilator therapy and put together a lubricant. I think she found it online with like cornstarch and water. I'm happy to send you the recipe. And she said it works great. I think you just have to heat it up in the microwave. So that's like the very DIY, you know, and you can also do, yeah, I'll be happy to just send you some resources. We can also use, so that's like the very DIY, right? Then there's like the more moderate sort of, there's like a wonderful vitamin E, beeswax, and cocoa butter, like a little suppository. It might be like the size of your like fingernail, maybe. Again, if you're comfortable putting something inside. And so totally wonderful for anybody who can't use estrogen, right? Like there's so many things we can use that and to moisturize that do not involve estrogen. And that's, like maybe $14 for 16 of those suppositories 3 times a week. Super helpful. Big thing to know about internal moisturizing is that, and especially if like you really want to do it at night or at a time when you're then going to lay down, because you will have a little bit of leaking out. And then like that's uncomfortable. If like you put it in before you go to work and then you're like, oh, God, like, oh,
Right.
things that people don't say. So I learned that from patients. I've personally learned that just do it at night if that's a time, like do it at a time when you're going to lay down for a while. And then let me see. So that's like, so, and vitamin E is great, like vitamin E is super, super soothing. And
Wow.
the cocoa butter, the beeswax, like this is assuming like you don't have any allergies or anything like that. But, and also it's very, very neutral, very benign, you know? And I also just learned about you can use for a lubricant for intercourse, another DIY, you can use 1 part aloe vera and 1 part coconut oil.
Oh, interesting. So we're going to do another video specifically about lubricants for intercourse,
Stick with it.
but we'll include that there too. Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Awesome.
And um, so that's sort of like the medium sort of price point. And then you can also work, you can, with your nurse practitioner or your doctor, work with a compounding pharmacist, because you can do a really nice, like compounded hyaluronic acid in like a really soothing, non-toxic base. And hyaluronic acid is awesome for people that can't do hormones, can't do estrogen, because as Dan and I were chatting about, when we're premenopausal or before we had cancer, you can think about like that lining of your vaginal wall and like it's plump and it's like juicy and like really well hydrated. And it's like this, right? Like maybe an inch and 2 inches between your thumb and index finger. And then once you don't have those hormones on board, you're going through treatment or you're in menopause or whatever, then that lining of the vagina looks like that, right? So we use the estrogen to try to plump it up. But hyaluronic acid and vitamin E, they do a great job of like hyaluronic acid, you'll find it in your face serums, right? It's a collagen booster. So again, like there you go, right? Like it works really, really well. The commercial ones that are available, like a Halogyne, that's a brand that a lot of people use. That is concerning because it has some stuff in there that's not healthy for your vagina.
Appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Yeah.
Very common one that we ourselves used to use in our practice. And then one of my patients was like, there's some bad stuff in there. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. So we don't do it anymore. So that's where a compounding pharmacist, and I'm happy, can be really helpful. And I think for that, and you can get them to do like an aloe vera and vitamin E, you can get them to do a hyaluronic acid. That I think we're looking maybe for probably about 3 times a week. I want to say like it depends, like probably between like $45 and $60. So definitely a higher price point, but can be super, super helpful.
So would you say better results than the lesser priced items? Faster results?
I don't know. I think I'm so conscious about price point that I think you
Right.
have what works for you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just was talking to a gal yesterday that's using the hyaluronic acid and has really been happy with it. Can
Yeah.
I ask, like this is a personal question. A lot of the girls know that I was diagnosed with vaginal atrophy. So, and sex, like the wall of my vaginal wall is so thin now that anytime we even attempt sex, there's bleeding because the wall, tears and stuff. So even with vaginal atrophy, these kinds of things would be great to use.
Oh, totally.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, if your lining is like this, if
Mhm.
you use something like this 3 times a week, probably you're going to get it to be a little bit more like that.
Right.
Hopefully, have the bleeding. We'll hook you up with a good lubricant. We
Hmm.
have so many thoughts about lubricants, but
Right.
that's for another time. Yeah, and I also, even for people, again, I think compounding pharmacists can be so helpful because there are different kinds of estrogen that they can compound for us, right? And it doesn't have, yes, and it doesn't have, like in Europe, they're like so far ahead of us. And it doesn't have to be the estradiol, right? It doesn't, there's like a mellower kind, estriol, that's,
Right.
yeah, that a lot, and again, this is in concert with your oncologist, but we have like this massive fear of any estrogen. And I totally understand. And I'm not saying like, and you need for its prescription for all this stuff. And you need to work very closely with your oncology team. However, like we can compound like this more benign estrogen that's estriol with like a tiny bit of testosterone.
Hmm.
That matters for your vaginal atrophy.
Oh, interesting. So that's good. That was a question I had too. You can't just walk into a compound pharmacy with a recipe and say, hey, can you make this for me? You need a script for it, right?
You need a prescriber and you need to be in contact with your oncologist.
Okay.
If you're anything other than a triple negative, and even with a triple negative, you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was all very much in contact with my oncologist.
Yeah.
So
I actually think that the community at large is really, there is a lot of fear about estrogen. I was ER positive, but I would guess that, I mean, just because we know that that is such a fuel for cancer, I think all of us need to be really wary of anything.
totally, but when you really dive into the literature, and I'm just starting to learn about this,
Mhm.
the kind of estrogens, that estriol, I think, is something that could be potentially very, very helpful, even for people with ER/PR positive.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah,
So
and
that's awesome. So that's great. So ladies, what we'll do is Kathy has talked about a lot of different options. We are going to include links to those in the article along with this video. So just look below for that. And Kathy, I am just tickled to know you and so grateful that you're willing to educate us about everything that you are doing to help women. So thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Appreciate you so much. Wow. I'm blown away. I'm learning right along with you ladies. So we'll sign off for now. This is Jan James from Hope After Breast Cancer. We'll see you next time. Oh, you're so good at this, girlfriend. Wow. I'm going to move these papers out of the way because I just realized they're in my shot. And my cat is yelling outside. So I'm going to give her some goodies. Hang on a second. She's very, very mouthy. Hang on, kitty. Here we go. Well, there you go, girlfriend. Okay, now I can leave the door open because I fed her. Do you have any animals over there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, what do you got? Oh, is it a cat or a dog?
It's a long-haired miniature dachshund.
Oh, long-haired. Oh, I want to see it. What's its name?
Ollie.
Oh, that's fun. That's cool. Okay, you want to knock out another one or are you done?
Why don't we do the lubricant one?
Okay.
And then I think we could be finished. And then you'll have a lot of stuff, and then I can, yeah, I'll send you the thing, and then I think I'm going to give you the link for my new practice rather than the one that's on my LinkedIn, just so people can.
That's totally fine. No, that's great. Yeah, because I think people will reach out to you. My guess would be that, you'll probably get some consults, and that's great. I mean, I always want it to be a win-win for everybody I work with, I'm like, what can I do for you? So don't ever hesitate to yell about stuff like that. So yeah, I enjoy that, being able to help too. Okay. So I'm going to go again, and here we go. I got to change my camera angle a little bit. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Starting again, 5. Hello, ladies. It's Jan from Hope After Breast Cancer. Hope you're having a great day. I'm here with our pelvic floor therapist, Kathy Cates from Boston. Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. Glad you're here. I keep thinking we have air conditioning on in Arizona now, so, but is it still chilly there or not?
It's like threatening to be spring.
Oh, good. Okay. It's coming. It's coming. Don't worry. So that's good. Hey, today, what's our topic today, Kath?
Ooh, lubricants for intercourse or penetrative activities.
Okay. Whatever you'd like to call them. What can you tell us?
So I think it is important to distinguish between like a moisturizer and a lubricant. And lubricants we use to decrease friction, right? Like I think that's and I also want to talk about the application of lubricant, because I think most people either would put it like on the penis or on the toy. And I think you also need to put it inside of you. And I think a lot of people don't do that. Right. So that's like number one.
So you can do that with a finger with a dilator. Is that your suggestion, or?
Yes, in order to not be like so heteronormative, I was like, if you're like using a toy or something like that, or if we're talking about a penis, sure, put the lubricant on whatever's going to go inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then you either yourself with your own fingers, or with the person you're being intimate with, put lubricant inside of you. You have to lube up the inside of that vagina. And I think most people just think, oh yeah, I'm just going to put it on the penis or like on the sex toy. Like, not enough.
Right.
And don't be afraid that if it's not feeling right, to pause and put on some more. More is better. I mean, if you go too much, like it might get too slippery, fine. You can always like take, kind of rub some off. More is better. Lube is good.
Mm-hmm. Good.
First and most importantly, lube is good. And so I guess I could offer, we think a lot about, again, none of this is regulated. So we have to think a lot about the ingredients in the lubricants. You don't want anything warming. You don't want anything that smells like with fragrance, like, like.
Why is that? Generically, why is that?
Because the vagina is an amazing self-cleaning oven. And you don't want to disrupt that vaginal microbiome, right? It's amazing, amazing. So you don't want to be putting anything inside that's going to alter that microbiome, that's going to alter the pH of your vagina. You just don't, and you don't have to. So there's so much out there, But I feel like what we try to do is really like look at a lot of the stuff and then say, you can find stuff that's just as good that doesn't have all that crap in it. You shouldn't put anything, no chemicals of concern, no fragrance, no warming, no nothing. Bad.
Very good to know. And
Enhance,
great analogy. Yeah.
it doesn't enhance anything. It's going to kill your vaginal microbiome. It's going to alter your vaginal pH. Your vaginal pH most likely is great on its own.
Very good. Okay. Good to know.
So, you know, they're different bases, right? So water-based, oil-based, and then silicone. Those are the three kinds. And so I think, again, it's personal, right? So like we have ones that we tend to recommend in my practice. I think, again, like you just got to try, right? So we have DIY versions, and then we have, you know, kind of like middle range, and then we have higher end ranges. So I think we really like Good Clean Love. That's a pretty popular brand it's about $12 for 4 ounces. It doesn't have any, it's like aloe vera based. It doesn't have any garbage in it. A big thing too that I'm just learning about is, and this might be a little too much, but the osmolality of the lubricant, right? So it's just some of these lubricants, I'll say it like this, a lot of lubricants that we think are lubricating are actually drying. So this company is putting on their materials, like they're measuring this, they're thinking about it. The World Health Organization has recommendations for what that number needs to be. So don't worry about it, but the take home is that some of the lubricants that are being marketed can actually be very drying and do
How
the opposite.
interesting. Yeah. And that, boy, we don't need any more of that.
And I'm learning about that. So like, no shame that you don't know, because I didn't know that either.
Mhm.
Another one that we like is another water-based one, and I'll send you the resources for that, is Liquid, S Liquid. The same, it's about $14 for 2 ounces. So we're starting to get a little bit more expensive. A nice DIY version. You do 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 cup of water, cook it on medium heat, stir it until it's boiling, and then cool it and put it in a container, and then just heat it up when you want to use it.
Really? As a lubricant?
It's a lubricant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, girl.
So I think I shared in the last one, like my mom uses that for her. She uses the pelvic wand and didn't want to, like, I'm like, Mom, I'll get you a lubricant. She's like, no, I don't need that. And so she came up with her own. She said it works great. You just have to heat it up. So like that could be annoying, but there you go. Another DIY that I recently learned about is 1 part of aloe vera gel with no additives and 1 part coconut oil. Right. So just a 1-to-1 ratio.
Easy, right?
And if you wanted to, you could add like a drop of essential oil, but I don't even think you need that. I would, you know. And then there's a nice brand a lot of people like. It's a little more expensive. I can't remember the price point. And some people say no to silicone. There's not enough research, you know, and I have some, like, I think I'll just say that there's some concern about that. We have a lot of patients who really like it, super slippery. And so it's called Uber Lube. So that's a little more expensive. I don't remember, but, and like that you can get on Amazon. And then there's a really nice 2 oil-based ones, a little more expensive, but there's like a super thick, like almost like a moisturizing cream, almost, it's like thick, called Lover's Lube. Really good. Send you the link. It's made by this really cool herbalist in the mountains of Eastern Tennessee. She's awesome. Doesn't have any crap in it. Super thick. So think about it, like if something's like really dry, like that extra, like very thick lubricant, like might be really, really good. So there's also another company we just recently learned about called Coco New. I think it's a brother and sister. I think that maybe their mom, I think, was suffering from ovarian cancer, I think, and they became really interested in lubricants. So they have a nice oil-based one and a water-based one. It's more expensive. It's like $25 for 3 ounces. And you can't use oil-based lube with condoms, right? Because the condom won't work. So always important, like whatever lubricant you're using,
Mhm.
you know, if you're trying to prevent pregnancy and using condoms, careful with that because they are not all compatible with condoms.
What is your opinion about coconut oil? I know a lot of the girls use that.
Yeah, I think it's mixed. I think it's probably pretty good. I think to use it all the time, I'm not so sure because coconut oil is antibacterial, right? So,
Mm.
and again, I wish I could say I have 25 research studies to back me up, and I don't. So I think coconut oil can be good, and it's certainly like a really nice affordable option. On a day-to-day, not so sure because I do wonder, again, talking about that vaginal microbiome, I don't know if you want to always be exposing that vaginal microbiome to something that we know could potentially be antibacterial. But again, I'm not really sure, so I just want to
Right.
be honest.
No, I appreciate your perspective on that. We don't know what we don't know. So no, that's okay. I just have heard it mentioned a lot. So that's good. Okay, so we're going to be able to put links to these things that you've mentioned in the comments of this article on the website, and the girls will be able to find that there. And what website for you, dear heart? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can get in touch with me at wellesthealth.com.
Is it Wellness Health?
Actually, Wellest, like Wellest.
Oh, Wellest. Oh, Wellest. Health. Got it. Okay, that's a new one for me. Good. Okay. No, that's good. I'll put that link in the article as well. So that's great. Well, good. Thanks, Kathy, for your expertise and all things lube. And I think that's going to help a lot of women. Ladies, too, after you've used some of these options, it would be great if you can comment in the Sex After Breast Cancer page about your success or lack of success. It's okay. It's an experiment for everybody. So there's not one size fits all. That's kind of a funny thing to say about this particular topic, but there we go. So Kathy, thanks for being here. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say? Sorry.
You got to be brave and you got to try some different stuff. And like, if you get whatever the first time and you're like, still hurts, this is not good, that's okay. This takes a lot of bravery and just like keep trying and you'll find the thing that works.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, that's coming, if you don't know this, ladies, Kathy is also a breast cancer survivor, so she's lived in our shoes. So I appreciate you saying that, because it's a hard road and it's an unexpected road about how breast cancer has come into our intimate lives and left us in wreckage, so we need to find ways to heal that way. That's what we're about. So thank you again for being here. And ladies, we'll be doing more videos with Kathy Cates as time goes on, and just really hope that this content is valuable to you and your partner. Thanks so much for being here. This is Jan James from Hope After Breast Cancer. See you again soon. Bye-bye. Girlfriend, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you found some nuggets to encourage you and give you hope. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You never want to miss an episode. And we'd love to know how we're doing, so please be sure to leave us a review. Until next time, this is Jan James encouraging you to remember there is hope after breast cancer. See you next time.